Fallout 76's Wastelanders update brought so much new content that a good chunk of it has just gone totally unnoticed. In some cases, it just wasn't clear that it was added. Other cases, it wasn't even in the patch notes or the community didn't really pick up on it on a wide scale. Or sometimes some of these new features just need a bit more clarification. The only way you know how they work exactly is from word of mouth or data mines. So in this video, what I'm going to do is explain to you some of those lesser known features, go a bit more in depth on some existing ones, and perhaps even reveal other ones to you. This video took a while to make and get all of the research on, so if you do enjoy it, I encourage you to subscribe. There's going to be a lot more Wastelanders content in the coming weeks. And even further, this is the second entry in this series, so if you missed the first one, I will have it linked in the description down below. One of the features many of you are now fully engrossed with in Wastelanders is the gold bullion system. I made a full video looking at the endgame of Fallout 76 and explaining a bit more in depth how this all works, so if you missed that, I do recommend it. But one thing that isn't immediately obvious and a very important factor to keep in mind with gold bullions is there is a limit on how many you could have. So in total, you could only have 5,000 gold bullions on a given character, which may seem super high if you're like me and are scraping around with just mere hundreds, but some of the items are pretty expensive, getting up to 4,000 gold bullion in total, so that is a fairly relevant number. It's not a super high cap. And once you hit 5,000, even if you get gold bullions by trading treasury notes for them, they won't actually give you anything. It'll allow you to go through that process, but it'll just delete those gold bullions. So you definitely want to know this and be aware of when you hit it. Although you can have an unlimited amount of treasury notes, so you don't have to fret, you can still store treasury notes and submit them for gold bullions later. And if you're not familiar, just to go over some of the caps the game has in general, 5,000 for gold bullions, no cap for treasury notes, 1,000 for script, and 30,000 for bottle caps. Those are important again because if you go over them, you're going to be deleting or wasting items. But something else pretty interesting about the gold bullion system is how often it resets. The daily events in Fallout 76 reset at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but the gold bullion exchange, trading treasury notes for gold bullions, is 20 hours after you make the first trade of the day. So let's say on a Monday, you make that exchange at 8 a.m. The subsequent Tuesday, you'll be able to do it again at 4 a.m. because it's only 20 hours, not 24. If you're really trying to optimize this, you could actually technically in a 7-day period get 8 exchanges in instead of the typical 7 if you are literally starting the countdown as soon as that 20 hours is up. So instead of 1,700 gold bullions in a 7-day period, you could get 1,900 or slightly more actually. But even further, where this becomes a bit more practical to know, if you're one of those people that has just been waiting to submit your treasury notes for gold bullions until you have the full stack, maybe don't do that. Just go to those stations as soon as you get one to start that countdown timer again, or make a note of when your countdown will reset. Even further, in a similar vein, Smiley also doesn't reset on Mondays, even though he technically tells you he will. Smiley actually resets at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, even though he describes it as being reset on Monday. This is a fixed timer. Every week at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, he will have his gold reset, but I've seen a lot of people waiting till Monday, and you really don't have to. Another big new feature with Wastelanders is, of course, the Wendigo Colossus, and getting this crazy creature to spawn. A lot of people have been using these maps, as it is the most optimal locations to get the Wendigo Colossus to spawn. And although that is true, you may have actually been missing out on opportunities for this spawn because you don't have the full picture. So the Wendigo Colossus will spawn at random encounter assault zones. And just to make it simpler, I'll have a link to this map in the description, but any blue dot on this map, when nuked, will have a 6% chance at spawning a Wendigo Colossus. These locations just happen to be the two where one nuke will encapsulate 2 random encounter assault zones, giving you higher odds of getting this guy to spawn. But even further, one of the other big ones I see people missing are with the Scorch Beast Queen fight. Oftentimes, after fighting the Scorch Beast Queen, you actually hit one of these random encounter zones. So after doing this fight, a really good tip is just go wander over to this blue dot, and there's a 6% chance a Wendigo Colossus will be standing there, typically within the tree line. Alternatively, if you're really determined to try and get one of these guys to spawn, even if initially he doesn't spawn here, you could actually clear out all the enemies, and you in fact have to clear out all the enemies it seems, so make sure you do that. Fast travel away, wait 10 minutes, fast travel back, and a new group of enemies will spawn, and that 6% chance happens again. So in any given nuke, if you spend enough time, if you actually fast travel away, wait those 10 minutes for everything to appropriately reset, you should have an almost guaranteed chance, at least statistically, of getting one of these from a given nuke, because nuke zones last 2 hours. And a lot of times you don't even have to launch a nuke for yourself, just server hop a few times or wait for a Scorch Beast Queen fight and then just hop around at this particular area. Although around nukes with Wastelanders, I've seen a lot of discussion as to, well, what happens if you nuke this area or this area? Based on the PTS and data mines, we know that from nukes in Fallout 76, the two new things that could happen are either A, the 6% chance of a Wendigo Colossus spawn at one of these blue dots, or alternatively, you can make the human NPCs at towns or even random encounters wear hazmat suits. I've seen both videos and claims of other things being able to happen, but it doesn't seem like, at least thus far, there are any other new features as a result of nuking. Although something that is a pretty cool new feature are some of the rewards you can get from the Pleasant Valley claim tickets. To gain access to this feature, you actually have to complete one of the raider quests, that being Rose the Raider, not the raiders that are humans. It's one of the older quests from the game that with Key to the Past. As you're doing this quest, you'll gain access to the basement of the Pleasant Valley Ski Resort, and down there you'll find a bellhop who will accept Pleasant Valley claim tickets. The way you can get one of these tickets is after, again, completing this quest, they will drop off of feral ghouls or scorched. It doesn't seem like these actually have to be feral ghouls or scorched in the area. It could be anywhere on the map, and there's a 3% chance that one of these guys will drop them. Although that number may be a little off because in my testing, I literally couldn't get one to drop. I had to go online and trade with somebody to get one of these claim tickets. So the way this works is you submit a claim ticket to the bellhop and he'll give you a random prize. Many of the prizes are mundane or boring. The three particularly rare ones are A, the Western outfit, but the particularly sought after ones and new ones with Wastelanders, the fancy revolver and fancy pump shotgun. These are mandatory legendaries and they seem to always spawn with the exact same legendary effect, so it's not like they're going to be better ones once you have it, but they are unique skins and do make really great items for display in your camp. Right now, these are extremely rare and selling for a lot of money, that being the two new weapons in particular. The Western outfit has always been in the game and it's not quite as rare. Still a valuable item, but now that there's another way to get it, its value will likely start to decrease. But yeah, this is actually a cool new feature that I think a lot of people have been overlooking, where they're finding this ticket and are like, well, what do I even do with it? One of the other big changes that came with Wastelanders are some buffs to weapons. There's an extremely well done post by a Reddit user by the name of Duh5Hida, and yeah, I know that's probably not how you're supposed to pronounce that, but we want to stay monetized, where he basically rounds up some of the stealth changes that came to the various weapons, including pre and post patch values, so you could see exactly how much of a buff it was. But in particular, one of the big changes to come with this is a new damage type, that with true flame damage. So in Fallout 76 and actually in Fallout 4, instead of there being raw fire damage, we got energy damage. Specific flame and cryo damage types were actually something Bethesda was planning to add to Fallout 4, but it ended up getting cut. I know this because not too long ago I made a video about mods bringing back cut content. That was one of those mods, so if you want to check out that video, hey, there's a link. But more importantly, they just brought this cut feature from Fallout 4 into Fallout 76, and it affects a variety of weapons. Some of the easiest to obtain and most obvious are the Flamer as well as Molotov cocktails. And as you highlight them, now you will find a new damage icon. And one of the reasons this seems particularly valuable is it doesn't seem like many enemies actually have resistance to this damage. It's not totally clear if it still counts energy resistance as protecting against this damage type, but either way, both seem to have significant buffs. So it does seem like that damage over time from the flame damage is actually not protected and in turn doing a lot more damage than previously. So on one hand, the Flamer in general is now just a way more valuable and relevant weapon. Something that used to be pretty bad is actually now top tier, especially if you have an explosive variant. But even further, just in general, several items, including the Flamer, got actual value buffs. So with the Flamer, as you actually get some of the higher tier mods, they will do more damage than they did previously. And with how high of a rate of fire this thing has and the damage over time it does, some of these actually compound to be very influential, taking Flamers from an otherwise ignorable item to now actually one of the more top tier ones, or approaching top tier if you have a good version. Since I'm sure there's going to be a ton of renewed interest in getting Flamers, and in particular some of the mods for Flamers, because that's where the real damage is at. There's one consistent spawned Flamer in the world, and it's at this location. And if you're like, wait, why do I care? If you remember, in Fallout 76, to get mods, you have to scrap a weapon. I know so many of us have probably done that so long ago that we kind of forgot that's a thing, but yeah. So here's at least one free mod you could get once per day. And that wasn't all. Some other weapons saw stealth buffs. The Flamer seems to have the most dramatic and now be the most powerful. But check out that post linked in the description if you want a more comprehensive look at what exactly was upgraded. So that's one of the buffs, one of the positives to come from Wastelanders. One of the negatives we also got was unfortunately sharing perk cards was heavily nerfed. With the Wastelanders update to Fallout 76, Bethesda removed the ability of unyielding armor and specifically the bonuses of it, that being if you're under a certain health level you get +3 to all special stats except endurance, to count towards sharing perk cards via charisma. In the background footage, even though I have 12 charisma, should be able to share a 3-star perk card with my teammate, I can't do so because I'm getting bonuses from unyielding and my base charisma isn't high enough. Now, I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere, but I think this might be a bug. It is weird how unyielding affects everything in the game, including special checks and including dialogue special checks, but now suddenly it was too OP for sharing perks, which again was a feature before this update, so perhaps this ends up getting reverted, perhaps even by the time you're watching this video, but at least as of posting, this is something that was removed. So one of the other big items that did come with the Wastelanders update was the pepperoni roll, and this is a really popular new item, as it does give you a bonus to carry weight for 1 hour. Although there's been a lot of confusion as to how exactly you can get this item. So there are a few ways. Firstly, you can complete the riding shotgun event, one of the new events added in with Wastelanders shown in some of that early on gameplay. This is with the Blue Ridge Caravan, and a second way is to trade with Rudy Fernandez, who is a part of the Blue Ridge Caravan. He'll typically have 2 on his character and then reset after 20 hours, like all of the other resets with vendors. He'll spawn at either the Big Bend Tunnel east or west, but he won't always be there. The Blue Ridge Caravan have several traders, and one of them will be at the east and west tunnel, but it's not always all of them that are spawned in, so you may have to server hop a couple of times to find him, but he will be there. And then finally, if you just want to craft these for yourself, you could trade with Molly, the bartender in Crater, after you hit Neighborly, the 2nd highest reputation rank with the Raiders. This is a weird item in that it's a reputation reward that requires caps, although since it requires caps to purchase, you could actually trade for this. If one of your friends is already Neighborly, like me, and I'm very lucky, they can just give you this plan for free and then you can craft these items. Although do note, they're kind of expensive to craft and 9 times out of 10, you'll probably just end up buying them from Rudy or using the ones you got from events. So this next tip is definitely a hidden feature, but not technically something new with Wastelanders. Rather, it is now significantly more useful with Wastelanders, and that is some of the benefits of the survival tent. The survival tent is a Fallout First exclusive, and although many people have it, I don't think everyone knows about all of its functionality. The survival tent is very useful and handy for 2 reasons. 1, it is a fast travelable object that you can always get to, and 2, it acts as a spawn point. So this comes really in handy, 1, with farming the Wendigo Colossus. At least as of the current patch, you could place the survival tent in the nuke zone and then fast travel to it. So what I do, place it right next to a random encounter spot for the Wendigo Colossus, fast travel away somewhere, wait 10 minutes, then fast travel directly back to my survival tent. It makes that whole farming process a lot easier, and it's the only thing you could fast travel to in a nuke zone outside of camps. But what I feel like is even less known about the survival tent is when server hopping, it could act as a unique spawn point. A common thing I found myself doing in Wastelanders is trying to grind out random encounters. This typically involves going to a random encounter spawn, which may be far away from locations in Fallout 76. When you server hop in Fallout 76, it'll place you outside of one of the nearest locations, unless you have a survival tent placed down, in which case it'll place you right outside of your survival tent regardless of where it is. So it makes it really easy to consistently spawn in a given spot, and allows you basically to pick the spot you want to spawn in within reason. There are some places you can't place the survival tent, but large in part it has become a very valuable tool to me in this new update, mainly for these 2 regions where in the past I honestly didn't even use it that much. And one final one, just a minor thing that you may not be aware of, if you've been playing the game, you might see users with a weird name of a random string of numbers. I've actually seen quite a bit of speculation as to what exactly this is or isn't, but it's related to Steam. It's not totally clear if it's an error in transferring your Bethesda.net account to a Steam account, or something like your Steam account having alt key letters in the title. But if you see this and you're like, what's going on? Is it a bunch of bots? No, it's just people playing on Steam. But either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you guys found this informative. It took a while to compile all of this. Definitely a lot of cool stuff implemented with Wastelanders, and if nothing else, hopefully this video was helpful, helping you to get a better understanding on how some of these features work, or just alternatively actually being aware of their presence. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.